I noticed her before she ever looked at me. The way she moved through the office wasn't loud, it was measured, like every sound made sense around her. Her heels didn't just click, they punctuated the silence. Her perfume wasn't sweet, it lingered, low and deliberate, like something half-remembered. Her name was Clara Hale, department head, mid-40s, and everything about her felt like restraint wearing a smile. I told myself it was just respect, admiration, for how she ran a room with a single glance. But respect doesn't make your heartbeat stutter when she leans close to check your notes. Respect doesn't make you remember the outline of her hand long after she's gone. The first time she really saw me was a Tuesday. I'd stayed late, finishing a report that wasn't even mine. The office was quiet, printer hum, fluorescent buzz, the low hiss of rain against the windows. She appeared from the corridor, carrying a mug that matched her lipstick, deep wine red. "You're still here?" Her voice had that low warmth that made you want to answer carefully. Yeah. Thought I'd finish this before morning." She came closer. Noticing. Evaluating. "Most people would have gone home." "I'm not most people," I said, before I could stop myself. A pause, her mouth tilted, the faintest smirk. "Apparently not." She set her mug down beside me, close enough that the steam brushed my wrist. Her perfume mixed with the rain, cedar and something floral I couldn't name. My eyes flicked to her hand, pale skin, a faint scar near her thumb, the kind that tells a story you'd never ask about. She leaned slightly, reading the page I'd been editing. Her shoulder grazed mine. It wasn't an accident, or maybe it was. But it lasted one heartbeat too long. "You've got a good eye," she murmured. "I can tell." I didn't know if she meant the report, or the way I was looking at her. After that night, every interaction carried static. She'd pass me in the hall, and say my name in a tone no one else did. She'd correct my drafts with red pen, and leave comments that read more like private jokes. Once, during a meeting, her hand brushed mine while reaching for the same file. She didn't pull away. Neither did I. And that's when I started realizing it, she wasn't untouchable. Beneath all that control was something restless. Something that looked a little like mine. A week later, she asked me to stay after a presentation. Everyone else left, the room emptied, fluorescent lights dimmed to half. "You handled that client pitch well," she said, turning a pen between her fingers. "You didn't try to impress anyone. I was just trying not to say the wrong thing." "That's better than pretending you know everything," she said softly, glancing up. "Pretending gets people in trouble." Her eyes stayed on mine a moment too long. That silence, thick, humming, neither of us sure who'd speak next, was the most honest moment I'd had in months. She looked away first. "You should go," she said quietly. I didn't move. Her breath hitched, barely audible, before she added, "Before I forget, I'm your boss." The door opened behind us, someone from accounting, awkward, apologizing. The moment snapped like glass underfoot. She gathered her papers quickly, her voice brisk again. "Good work today," she said, all professionalism restored. But when she brushed past me, her hand grazed my sleeve, deliberate, just for a second. It was enough to undo every rule I'd promised myself to keep. And for the first time, I wondered if she felt it too. Clara had a rule: never linger too long with someone who made her forget herself. I could tell. The way she kept conversation on work, the way she laughed without meeting my eyes for more than a second too long, it was control disguised as composure. But then there were the moments when that control slipped, and I saw something raw flicker through. I learned about her past by accident, small details she let fall between lines. A husband once. Divorced 5 years ago. No children, though she never said if that was by choice or circumstance. When she mentioned it, her tone was steady, but her thumb rubbed the rim of her coffee cup, round and round, like she was polishing away old ghosts. I wanted to ask what happened, but I didn't. It wasn't my place. Yet she noticed the question in my eyes anyway. People grow apart, she said finally, with a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. Or maybe they were never that close to begin with. She stood, smoothed her blouse, and the subject dissolved into the sound of rain against the window. My own history wasn't much cleaner. A few short-lived relationships, too young, too eager, too loud. I'd always been told I seemed older than I was, which only made me feel more misplaced. But with her, I didn't have to pretend. It was strange, she wasn't trying to impress anyone. She just was. The quiet confidence, the way her hair fell loose when she was tired, the way she rested her glasses on her desk and rubbed her temples like she was carrying the whole department on her back. Sometimes I'd stop by her office under the excuse of clarifying a report. Sometimes, she'd let me. One evening, she called me in while the others were leaving. The air smelled faintly of printer ink and her perfume. "Close the door," she said, not looking up. Something in the tone made my pulse jump. She handed me a document, our fingers brushing, the kind of contact that shouldn't mean anything, but did. My hand stayed a second too long, hers didn't move either. "Be careful," she said, eyes flicking up. "People notice things they shouldn't." "I'm not worried," I replied quietly. "You should be." But she didn't sound convinced. Later that week, at a late client dinner, the restaurant lights were low and gold. She sat across from me, laughing with another executive, but every few moments, her eyes met mine. A silent exchange, fleeting, but electric. When we left, the night was cold. She offered me a ride, said it was on her way. Halfway through the drive, the conversation fell into silence, that familiar, heavy quiet that carried everything we weren't saying. At a red light, her hand rested on the gearshift, inches from mine. Neither of us moved. The only sound was her breath, soft and steady. Then, without looking at me, she whispered, "This can't go where it feels like it's going." The light turned green, but neither of us moved right away. The space between us felt smaller than it ever had. It started to show, the small ways we moved around each other. Too carefully. Too aware. The others in the office probably wouldn't notice, but I did. She stopped calling me by my first name when others were around. She stopped meeting my eyes during meetings. And yet, every time she passed behind my chair, the air seemed to bend. One late afternoon, the building emptied early for a company mixer. I stayed behind under the excuse of catching up on edits. She stayed too, though she said it was for emails. Outside, the city hummed, soft rain, dim streetlights, muted music from a bar below. Inside, only the glow of her desk lamp and the sound of typing. After a while, she sighed. "Are you always this stubborn?" I looked up. "Only when it matters." Her lips twitched. "You should go enjoy the party." "Only if you do." She leaned back in her chair, eyes narrowing, not annoyed, just measuring. "I'm not much for pretending to enjoy things anymore," she said. I hesitated. "Then don't pretend." Something flickered in her eyes, like she was about to say something dangerous. Instead, she rose and crossed the room. She stood beside me, close enough for her perfume to erase the space between thought and breath. Her hand rested lightly on the back of my chair. "You make it very difficult to stay professional," she murmured. The words froze me. Then, a sound. Footsteps in the hall. She stepped back just as a colleague poked his head through the door. "Clara, you're still here. We're heading out, want to join?" Her face was calm again, her voice smooth. "No, thank you. I have work to finish." The door closed, footsteps faded, and silence swallowed the room again. We didn't speak. But something irreversible had shifted. She walked to the window, arms crossed. I told myself this wouldn't happen, she said softly. I'm your boss, for God's sake. I stood, taking a few careful steps closer. It doesn't feel like it's just that. She turned halfway, eyes sharp, conflicted. That's the problem. Her voice broke slightly, the first crack I'd ever heard. It did something to me. I wanted to reach for her, to tell her she didn't have to keep standing so tall, pretending she was immune to feeling anything. Instead, I said quietly, you don't always have to be the one in control. She laughed once, a sound caught between disbelief and longing. If I let go, even for a second, her eyes met mine. I don't know what I'd do. I took another step. She didn't move away. The rain outside thickened, streaking the glass like a heartbeat out of rhythm. Her hand twitched, then stilled at her side. For a breathless second, our faces were inches apart. Her breath brushed my lips, warm, uncertain. She closed her eyes, then exhaled sharply, stepping back. This isn't happening, she whispered. But her hands trembled. And as she turned off the lamp, the darkness between us felt more intimate than light ever could. It was almost midnight when she called. Her voice was quiet, too quiet. Can you come by the office? No explanation. Just that low steadiness she used when she didn't want to admit she needed someone. When I arrived, the floor was dark except for her corner office. The blinds half closed, light spilling in thin stripes across the carpet. She was standing by the window, barefoot, her shoes kicked off near the desk. Clara? She turned, startled, or pretending to be. I didn't think you'd actually come. You called. I shouldn't have. Her blouse sleeves were rolled up, her hair slightly undone, a version of her that didn't belong to daylight. I took a step closer. What happened? She exhaled slowly, looking anywhere but at me. I saw one of the interns today. The way she looked at you. My pulse kicked. You're jealous. That's not what this is. It sounds like it. She turned sharply, eyes finally locking on mine. You don't understand what you're doing to me. The words landed between us, trembling. She pressed her hand to her forehead. This was supposed to stay professional. You're young, and I closed the space between us. You think I don't know what I want? Her hand dropped, barely brushing my chest. I could feel the tremor in her fingers. You have no idea how dangerous this is, she whispered. Then tell me to leave. She didn't. The air changed, heavy, electric. I reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Her breath hitched. Her eyes fluttered shut, just for a second. Clara, I said quietly, my voice barely holding steady, you don't have to keep fighting it. She opened her eyes, and something broke open there. Years of restraint, loneliness, and wanting something she'd denied herself too long. You make me forget who I'm supposed to be, she said. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. She laughed softly, breathless, disbelieving. Then she stepped forward, closing the final inch between us. My hand found her waist, and she didn't stop me. Her fingers curled against my collar, pulling just enough for me to feel the shake in her breath. This can't happen, she whispered, even as she leaned closer. Then stop me, I murmured. Her lips parted, a fraction, close enough that the warmth of her breath brushed my skin. We stood like that, suspended. The sound of the city far below, the low hum of the air vent, her heartbeat quick against my chest. For a moment, nothing else existed. Then, a sharp knock on the door. We froze. Clara? It's Mark. You still here? She jerked back, eyes wide, breath unsteady. I have to, she straightened her blouse, voice trembling. Go? Please. I hesitated at the doorway, her perfume clinging to me. Before I stepped out, she said, barely audible. This isn't over. The next morning, she avoided me. Her door stayed closed, her tone clipped over email, her signature stripped of the usual "see" that had somehow started to feel personal. It wasn't just distance. It was retreat. I told myself to let her have it, to respect the space she was clawing back, but by Friday, the silence had become unbearable. When I knocked on her door, she didn't look surprised. Just tired. You shouldn't be here, she said softly, still staring at her computer screen. You said this wasn't over. Her eyes lifted, and for a moment, the air thickened again. I was wrong. She stood abruptly, crossing her arms, not defensive, just holding herself together. Someone saw us last night, she said finally. I felt the words like cold water. Who? Mark. Her voice was flat. He asked if I was mentoring you personally. I stepped closer. What did you tell him? That I'm your boss. Nothing more. The silence after that hurt worse than shouting ever could. She turned to the window, pressing a hand to the glass like she needed the cold. This is exactly what I was afraid of, she whispered. Rumors, whispers, people thinking I can't be objective. You're not, I said quietly. Her head turned, eyes sharp. Don't. You're not objective. Neither am I. Something flickered there, anger, guilt, something deeper. You think this is simple, she said, voice trembling now. I've spent years rebuilding my reputation. I can't throw it away because you, she stopped herself. Because I what? Her lips parted, but the words came out raw, because you make me feel alive again. The confession hung in the air like a live wire. She looked instantly regretful, stepping back until the desk stopped her. Forget I said that. I moved forward anyway, unable to. You think I could? Her breathing quickened, shallow, uneven. You don't understand the cost of this. You can walk away. I can't. Then tell me to walk away. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes glistened, but she stayed silent. Instead, she brushed past me, the faintest touch at my arm, a trembling exhale, as she reached for the doorknob. I caught her wrist, gentle but sure. Clara. Her hand stilled. She didn't turn. If I stop now, I said, my voice low, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what it would have been like if I hadn't. Her shoulders shook once, not from fear, but from fighting herself. Slowly, she turned to face me. Her expression was unreadable, half sorrow, half surrender. Then, in a voice that sounded almost like defeat, she said, then meet me tonight. No more hiding. And just like that, the line she'd drawn for weeks, the one we'd both pretended to respect, vanished. Not because it broke. Because she finally stepped over it, the night felt heavier than usual, thick air, low clouds, the kind of quiet that waits for something to happen. She'd chosen the cafe near the river, the one with soft lights and fogged windows. A neutral place, as if that could make what was coming less dangerous. I found her at a corner table, jacket draped over the chair, fingers wrapped around a glass of wine she wasn't drinking. She didn't smile when she saw me. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said softly. I didn't know if I should. Her eyes lingered, then fell to the table. Neither did I. We talked about everything except what mattered, work, weather, the endless city noise. Every word was a deflection. Every silence, a confession. Finally, she said it. Do you ever wish you could rewind? Go back to before it got complicated? No. She looked up, startled by how quickly I answered. I don't, I repeated. Even if this burns everything down. Her breath caught, a sound so small I might have imagined it. She leaned back, studying me. You don't know what you're asking for. Then tell me. She looked down again. I've already lost too much once. I don't get to gamble like you do. I reached across the table, fingers brushing hers. She didn't pull away. Maybe it's not gambling, I said. Maybe it's choosing. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it pulsed. Her hand turned slightly, her palm meeting mine. She exhaled, eyes glimmering. You're making it very hard to keep my promises. To who? Myself. I stood first, the chair scraping softly. She hesitated only a second before following. Outside, the wind carried the scent of rain. Street lights shimmered on the water. We walked without speaking until we reached the edge of the bridge. There, she stopped. You don't understand, she said again, but her voice shook now. If I let this happen, there's no going back. Maybe there's nothing to go back to. Her eyes searched mine, anger, fear, desire, all tangled. You make everything sound simple. It's not simple. It's honest. For a heartbeat, she froze, torn between reason and the ache that had been growing between us for weeks. Then, slowly, she stepped closer. Her breath brushed my collarbone, her hand resting lightly on my chest. I could feel the tremor in her fingertips. This is the part, she whispered, where I should walk away. But you won't, I said. She looked up at me, eyes glassy, defiant, alive. No, she breathed, I won't. Our foreheads touched, not a kiss, not yet, just the quiet surrender of two people finally admitting what had already happened long before. Her voice was barely a whisper. Now you know what I've been fighting. I know, I said. And I'm not leaving. She smiled then, small, trembling, and real. The next morning, the city looked softer, washed clean after the night's rain. I walked into the office half expecting everything to collapse, rumors, whispers, the cool distance she'd rebuild overnight. But when I saw her, she was standing by the window again, coffee in hand, sunlight tracing the line of her hair. Morning, I said. She turned, tired, beautiful, real. Morning. Her tone wasn't cold. It wasn't cautious either. Just quiet. Like we'd finally stopped pretending. We didn't speak of what happened on the bridge. We didn't need to. Something had shifted, subtle but irreversible. That day, during a meeting, our eyes met across the room. No hidden message. Just recognition, two people who'd stopped running from what they already knew. Later, when everyone had gone, she found me in the hallway. Walk with me. We took the long way down, past the stairwell, through the side exit, into the courtyard that still smelled of rain. For a while, we said nothing. The evening light caught the damp leaves, her heels clicking softly against the stone. I keep waiting for the regret to come, she said finally. But it hasn't. Maybe that means something, I said. She smiled faintly. Maybe it means I'm reckless. Or human. That made her laugh, quiet, a little shaky. You're too young to sound that sure of things. Maybe. But I'm sure of you. She stopped walking then, turning to face me. Her hands were cold when I took them, but she didn't pull away. I've spent years building walls, she said. Around my job. Around myself. You make me want to stop checking for cracks. I didn't answer. I just brushed my thumb over the back of her hand, slow, grounding. You don't have to be perfect, I said. Not with me. Her eyes softened, all the tension she carried in her shoulders seemed to melt. You have no idea how dangerous that sounds. Then let it be dangerous. She stepped closer, close enough that I could feel her breath against my chin. Her hand rose to my cheek, fingers tracing lightly, as if memorizing something fragile. This isn't the kind of story people approve of, she murmured. Then let it just be ours. When she finally leaned in, it wasn't rushed. It wasn't forbidden. It was quiet, certain, the kind of kiss that feels like an exhale after too many days of holding your breath. The rain began again, soft against the glass. We stayed there for a long time, her forehead against mine, the world fading until all that was left was warmth and the simple relief of not pretending anymore. She smiled against my shoulder. So what happens now? I held her a little tighter. We find out. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?